What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Picking Fights. Before we start this video, make sure you like it, make sure you subscribe to us, make sure you comment down below what you think about our videos. If we made you some money or if we lost you your house, don't let us know because then you'll just make us feel bad. But we've been doing pretty good lately, so I don't think anybody's losing their house with us. What do you think, Tom?
No, I think obviously we didn't have a UFC card last weekend, but the weekend before, I think I went 7-0 if my memory serves me correctly. I think I pulled maybe one, maybe two picks ahead of you, but we're still neck and neck so far. So I think both of us are averaging pretty much 2-1 in terms of our pick ratio. So if you bet with us, you're gonna be up some units.
Wow, 2-to-1 pick ratio, dude. I haven't heard a ratio since high school math class. That's crazy. Or maybe I have and I just tuned them out. But when you put it like that, you sound so smart, man. So this weekend upcoming, we have UFC Vegas. What is it, 33?
I can't even fight. I don't know if they always keep that. It's UFC Vegas 34. Sometimes they advertise it as Vegas 34. Sometimes it's just fight night. These two fighters. I think they need to pick some type of consistent naming, pattern. But it is UFC Fight Night. Jared Cannonier versus Kelvin Gastellum. UFC Vegas 34.
Yes, that is correct. So, yeah, we could just start ditching the numbers because it looks like the UFC has to. Because who knows? Maybe they'll stop rolling with Vegas and go somewhere else. But when you have the Apex, it's so convenient. So, I don't know.
I don't know if they're going to. I mean, the way they got everything going now, I guess when things open up, you're going to want to. If you can sell tickets, you're going to sell tickets, right? Why not sell tickets? Why not have fans? But the way they're doing these UFC Vegas at the Apex, it seems pretty efficient that, I think that they'll definitely keep, they're going to keep that for the Contending Series. But, who knows? Maybe, every so often a fight night just won't have fans in attendance. I don't know why they would do that, but.
Speaking of the Contender Series, that's coming back this week, right?
I'm not sure, but I'm definitely going to start watching it. Have you been keeping up with TUF?
Here and there.
So what happened was, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched it yet, but it's literally the last episode is coming up this weekend, or this Tuesday. So, honestly, by the time this video is out, it may have already happened. So, but basically you had Brian Ortega's team take the first 4 fights. They were up 4-0, and Ortega was getting all cocky. Volkanovski's team came back, won the next 4, then won the next 2, and then in the championship fight, won both of the championship fights. So it may be an all Volkanovski championship. I think already either the bantamweight or the middleweight is already both Volkanovski, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm really liking to see Alex Volkanovski coming out of this a winner. I think I like him much better now than I did before. I did not like him before, but obviously we all love Max Holloway. You beat Max Holloway twice, maybe once, depends on who you ask. But, you beat him. I'm not going to be your biggest fan, but he's a good dude. I listened to the whole thing with him on Rogan. He seems like a fun guy. And Ortega just seems kind of like a dick, constantly showing up late. I know he did do a thing where he kind of he could have just given his team $1,500 from a cornhole win he had against Volkanovski. He asked for $2,000 extra and then gave his personal winnings to Volkanovski's team. So that was pretty cool. So he's not a total dick, but I don't know. Not my kind of guy. Volkanovski, I like him a lot better. Looking forward to their fight in September.
Yeah, kind of hoping, Volkanovski just wipes that pretty boy smile off of Ortega's face because that seems to be what he's riding on now more than anything. It's just the fact that he's good looking.
Pretty much.
Props to him, but I don't think he will be after Volkanovski destroys his face. But I do want to say one guy from TUF that's made a big impression on me, though, from what I've seen, is Ricky Tercios.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, he's entertaining. And, no matter, I don't know where he's at, if he's winning, losing. I saw he won his last fight on there. But he's an entertainer more than anything. And Dana White seemed very impressed with his last fight on there. And, I'm looking forward to seeing him secure a roster spot. I think he's got it,
Yeah, I think it's kind of silly how the Contender Series, they hand out contracts like it's nothing. And then you have TUF, which is an entire competition for one contract. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like either hand them out like candy or they're really coveted and hard to get. Also, the winner of TUF, he gets his contract and whatever, but I feel like other people who didn't win may also get a contract. So like, what's the winner really getting here? Like, is it a shot at a bigger gym? Is it a this or is that like, is it immediately a ranked position? Like, I don't know. I think the winner should get something more. Maybe the winner gets $1 million or something like that. Take something from the PFL, get just a little extra incentive, because it just doesn't seem that like the incentives don't match, right? You have to go through 3-4 fights on the Ultimate Fighter. Dana White's like, this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done with the competition. I'm sure it is. But you win that, and then meanwhile, you're telling me that if I just got lucky, I could have been on the Contender Series, won one fight, and then got my contract. Like, I don't know. It's something about it doesn't seem right. So maybe they take another look at that now that the UFC's got some money and this and that. And they always talk about fighter pay. It's a great option for Dana White to go, look, no, win TUF. Here's $1 million. Like, there's your fighter. So maybe that could be helpful for him in that argument.
Yeah, I will say before we jump into the main card, into this week's event, the last thing good counter argument to what you said. I think the biggest bonus to being on the Ultimate Fighter is the fact that the fans at home get to know you, and you can develop some very loyal fans that way. People get to connect with fighters that we've seen in the past on there, like Rose. Thug Rose is on there. She told her story. She was kind of I don't know.
She didn't even win.
No, she didn't.
She lost to Carla Esparza.
Yeah, exactly. But, you're out there, you're on TV, you're going through a lot of raw emotions. And, it's like any other reality television show. People are either going to love you or they're going to hate you. And, from there, you develop a fan base or a bunch of people that want to see you get your ass kicked week after week. But it helps to develop your fan base, basically, and get you onto those big pay-per-view cards.
Yeah, it does make you more notable. It makes you more known. But I don't know. If you've watched, or like I've watched almost every episode of TUF this season, and as compared to previous seasons, there's just a lot less of that reality drama. Every episode is, all right, we're gonna take it's an hour-long episode that really ends up being about 48 minutes. Each week there's a fight, so that's 15 minutes right there, right? So then you have 30 minutes, and it's like, you have 10 to tell you who this fighter is, 10 to do this fighter, 15 for the fight. Before you know it, there's really no reality. You don't get to know them beyond their family, which is fine, right? It's all good. You get to know their backstory. But at the same time, if they're fighting, it's almost no different than the history that they do on the Embeddeds or they do on the UFC Charged or whatever, leading up, where they just tell you about the person. I want to see more reality. Like, it's supposed to be a reality show, right? So, like, I like reality shows, some of them, not all of them. I'm a big Brother person personally. So seeing them all in the house interacting, and I mean, that's where you get your most clickbaity or the things that people are going to remember. I mean, remember, like, I just want to bang, bro, like that guy, like freaking out. Like, yeah, I mean, it's all about fighting, yes, but also you want to get to know these people and who they are as people, not just their story. And I think they could add a little bit more of that reality drama into there, make them do more competitions, like make it a reality show, make it about fighting, make it about learning them. But I don't need to dive into all of their backstories, and then the guy loses and then you don't hear from him again. It's like, well, that was wasted. So, like, let's show who these guys are, how they interact. Also, it doesn't make sense. Like, the guys lose, they lost, but they got to stay in the house. So what do? They just try, like, I don't know. It seems like there's a little bit of room for improvement on TUF.
Oh, definitely agree. But it's the UFC. It's only becoming a bigger sport right now. More people are starting to put their eyes on it, and I'm sure the production value is only going to get better as time goes on. So I think it's time now. We should definitely dive into UFC. I can never say his name right, bro. Jared
Cannonier.
Oh, okay. You said it differently before.
I messed up. I said Cannonier or something, but it's Jared Cannonier.
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 Yeah,
the guy who's going to be doing a cannon. At least that's the majority of the way that I've heard it pronounced. So I'm feeling confident in Jared Cannonier. Although I think he's going to lose. But
I thought maybe you knew something I didn't know with the way that you were saying it. But Jared Cannonier versus Kelvin Gastellum. So I'll start off. I got like this weird cape on today that I found in my house. It's a little funky looking. I feel like Cruella DeVille. But I'll start off with my prelim lock. I got Bia Malecki. Look, I'll tell you this. I'm on the Instagram Explore page one day, just scrolling down, and something catches my eye. A few somethings. I'll say two somethings. And they belong to this fighter, Bia Malecki. And I didn't even know she was a fighter. I went and looked at her page. It says UFC fighter in the bio. I'm like, okay, that's why Instagram's showing it to me. Instant follow. See that she's fighting on this card. Look at how she matches up against who's the chick she's fighting.
Jose
She's fighting
Nunez.
Josiane Nunez. Wow, when you have a last name like Nunez, it's a little scary, and she's a scary-looking woman too. But
From Brazil.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily call this a lock for everybody else, but I'm locking it in because I'm going with my girl Bia, B, however you say it. Plan on hearing the commentator say it this weekend. Just waiting for somebody to hit me with a bonk in the comments, but yeah, that's who I'm riding with. She's got a pretty decent height and reach advantage here. She's a really good Muay Thai fighter. And then, you look at Tapology and she's 70-30 with fan voting right now. Percents, not just 70 votes to 30 votes, but I think odds are she's gonna pull out of this one with a W. Those kicks, man, she's got a lot of good head kicks. Was watching a few of her videos, like she's cool, she's gorgeous, and she's a good fighter. So lock her in. Don't have the odds just yet, but I'll be throwing some money on her.
Sounds good, man. Personally, I think I want on the undercards, I'm going to take Luis Saldana over Austin Lingo, and I'm going to unfortunately pick Brian Boom Boom Kelleher over Domingo Pilarte. I'd rather Pilarte to win, not much because I'm a Pilarte fan, but more so because I just don't like Brian Kelleher. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is about him that I don't like. Some people just rub you the wrong way. No offense, Brian. You're not going to like everybody, and I just kind of don't like you. That's fine. I think he is going to probably end up being the better fighter here. He's much shorter. He's giving up, I think, 7 inches. But I think he's going to be able to close the distance. I think he is going to be able to defend the takedown. So I think this will probably be largely a standing match. And if he can, even if he does get taken down, I think he'll end up scrambling back to his feet. I think he'll probably win this one by decision. And then over to Luis Saldana. I just think he's more accomplished on the feet. I think Austin Lingo is just, he's lights out, but, his average fight time is 15 minutes. So not much lights out. Maybe it's lights out because they turn all the lights off when everyone's ready to leave after his fight because it goes to decision, not because he's turning people's lights out. I think Luis Saldana is more accomplished on the feet. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. A little bit. He's got a little bit more experience as well. I like Luis Saldana in this one. I think Luis Saldana maybe is a future contender in this division. So picking Brian Boom Boom Kelleher and Luis Saldana on the undercard. And also just watch out for William Knight. I think there's a good chance that he KOs Fabio Cherant. William Knight, both of these guys, there's light heavyweight, but they look like they deserve to be in the heavyweight. Both of them just big black dudes, they're just muscled out to the gills. I see someone getting either KO'd or we're going to see another repeat of Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis, where they're just, respectful of both people's power, so they don't want to make a move. But typically speaking, at least what I've seen on the undercards, that happens a little bit less because they're trying to make a name for themselves. William Knight's been in the UFC a little bit longer than Fabio is, so I see these guys coming out trying to throw heavy. I hope it doesn't get to the 3rd round because I imagine they both will gas out by then. So I'm picking a 2nd round knockout for William Knight. So for all of those of you following along, we have William Knight, Bia Malecki, Brian Kelleher, and Luis Saldana on the undercard with about a 70%. I just lost my train of thought. About 70% accuracy. I feel about 70% confident in all of those people.
Yeah, I like the Brian Kelleher pick, but you're right, man. He is a very complete fighter, but there is something about him. I think it's probably just when you look at him because he looks like a guy that you would find hanging out in your local Wawa at like 2 a.m.
Yeah. He reminds me, and this is gonna sound. He reminds me of a Keebler elf, and I couldn't tell you exactly why, but he just kind of does. I think it's because his ears are kind of pointy. He's bald, and his teeth aren't great, so it looks like he might want to bite someone or something. So I don't know. I not a huge fan of Brian Boom Boom Kelleher. I've seen him on some podcasts. Just his personality doesn't mesh with my personality, and that's fine. Like, no offense, not everyone's gonna like each other. I don't particularly like him. I think he's a good, well-rounded fighter, but I think there's levels to this game, and we see it. You could be a good, well-rounded fighter, but you go against somebody who's just better in every area. Well, they're just 2, 3, 4, 5 times more well-rounded. So I think if Brian Kelleher can stay in that unranked area, I think he's going to win a lot of fights just because he's accomplished and he's experienced and he's got, the ability to do it in all areas. But once he starts moving to like the top 10, top 5, I don't know if I see him having a prolonged. I don't know if I see him as a legitimate contender. And I'm sure if he were to see this, that's great. That means we have great reach, and he'll probably be like, "Fuck this guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about." And maybe he's right, but just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, Brian, if you do see this, let us know. Talk your shit, dude. We'd be happy to have you on. So we'll move on to the main card now.
Mm-hmm.
You just pull that up real quick. It's it's all right. Nothing we haven't really seen from a fight night. So first up, we got Martinez versus Trevin Jones. Tom, I'll let you kick this one off. Who do you like?
Yeah, I like Trevin Jones, and I like Trevin Jones by a good margin. I think he's a lot better on the feet. I think he's a lot more power in his hands. We're looking at Tapology, 423 votes, 88% of them coming in on Jones, with 76% of that by KO, TKO. So clearly, some people have the same thought process as me, as when it comes to this fight. Trevin Jones, 5-star Trevin Jones versus Mana Martinez. I just like Trevin Jones. These guys are roughly the same size. I think Trevin Jones' speed is really going to be the differentiator here. He lands, almost twice the amount of strikes that Mana Martinez does. Mana Martinez is a big ground guy. 6.3 submission averages per 15 minutes. So you're looking at him trying to throw up maybe 2 submissions per round. But I just don't think Trevin Jones, a guy with 0% takedown defense, or, well, I guess nobody's tried to take him down yet. Maybe there's a good reason for that. He has so here's the interesting thing. Looking at these grappling stats, Mana Martinez, his average takedowns per 15 minutes are 0, but his submission averages per 15 minutes are 6.3, which tells me that sometimes he'll be taken down and he's really good off his back. However, if I'm Trevin Jones, I'm not going to take down this guy. I'm going to stand and I'm going to fight with him. So I'm going to pick Trevin Jones here to win probably by a KO, maybe in the first round.
All right, I like the pick. I'm rolling with Trevin Jones too. I just wanted you to make your argument. That was very, very rock solid. Anybody at home watching this, I think Trevin Jones is a very good pick here. Not much to say about that. He's got power in his hands. So next we got Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. I personally like Royval. Just based on what I've seen in the past, I think he's another well-rounded fighter. Really good on the ground, really good standing up. But I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, Alexandre Pantoja, the Cannibal is his nickname. He's got a lot more experience, coming in at 23-5. With an average fight time of 11 minutes. He is not that tall, coming in at 5'5". He's going to have a reach disadvantage by 1 inch. But, he has shown that he can strike on the feet, but he also is hittable, getting hit, about 3.5 times per minute. So I think if you're going to go up against a guy who has okay stand-up, where you're maybe about even, maybe you're slightly better, but the other guy just has much better takedowns. His takedown accuracy for Brandon Royval, 100%. Takedown defense, 53%, throwing up almost 2.5 submissions per 15 minutes. He's got a win over Kai Kara France. He's got a win over Tim Elliott. His only loss was to Brandon Moreno, and that was in the second round due to a shoulder injury, maybe from strikes. Not going to take anything away from Brandon Moreno, but when you lose to Brandon Moreno, guy goes on to tie with Figgy, maybe should have beat Figgy either way, and then goes on to actually demolish Davison Figueiredo in that second fight. That's not a bad loss. I can forgive that. But, we're looking at Alexandre Pantoja's last loss. He did lose to Davison Figueiredo. He beat Matt Schnell, which I don't see as like a giant win for him. He lost to Askarov too as well. So I'm just looking at the difficulty of wins versus losses. I'm going to give Brandon Royval the edge up there. Tapology, I believe, is picking Pantoja to win this. They have Pantoja 63% to Royval's 37%, so fairly close as far as Tapology predictions have gone. 832 people voting. They're thinking Pantoja wins by decision. I'm thinking maybe a Royval submission. So I'm going to go with Brandon Royval in this one.
All right, yeah. I mean, I like Royval as well. I think that's the way to go here. Just trying to keep this one quick. We could talk about these fights forever, but I think you're making some great points. So then I'll kick it over to you for the next one too. I don't even know how to say it. Vince, Pichel, Vinc.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think it's Vince Pichel, but I could be wrong on that one. He's taking on Austin Hubbard,
Right.
although I'm going to have to go with Pichel in this one, with just like the 77% of people on Tapology, the 77% of 800 people are going with Pichel compared to the 23% going with Austin Hubbard. It seems like the majority of people here think this one's going to go to decision. Let me check my notes here. Vinc, Pichel, let's just call him, his nickname is From Hell. So From Hell, he beat Jim Mayhem Miller. His only recent loss was to Gregor Gillespie, which, again, we're talking about quality of losses, and you also got to take that into account as to where they are in their career. Vince Poncho, we're not too sure what his name is. That tells you kind of where he is. He's probably on the cusp of a top 15. A win over Austin Hubbard could definitely help him get there. 13-2 coming into this fight. From Simi Valley, California, always notable. But From Hell, he's beaten Jim Mayhem Miller. His only recent loss was Gregor Gillespie. Austin Hubbard is 3-3 in the UFC. He hasn't really proven that he's able to hang with top level competition. And with Vince From Hell rising, I think this is going to be a tough matchup for Austin Hubbard. The other thing here is we got to remember Vince Pichel, he's 38 years old, going on 39. So is that going to be a problem for him into this fight? Like we said, Tapology still thinks that he's going to be able to use his experience, maybe training for longer than Austin Hubbard has. Either way, I think Vince has a better grappling game. I think he has better wins/losses. So I'm going to go with Vince From Hell, Pichel.
Yeah, I like the pick. Austin Hubbard just is starting to look a little bit slow. He's still young, but he's definitely slowing down from where he was when he first stepped onto the roster. I don't know if that's losing motivation or whatever, but I like Pichel. Losing to Gregor Gillespie is pretty notable. Best fisherman in the UFC right now. So you got to keep an eye on anybody that's going in the ring in the octagon against Gregor Gillespie. All right, so we got Parker Porter up next versus Chase Sherman. I don't know Parker Porter's nickname, but with his name, Parker Porter, I'd probably go with Piggy. He's a heavyweight. I think Parker Piggy Porter would be pretty funny, but I am riding with Chase Sherman in this one. Parker Porter, he's just like a big fat slob. I'm not really one to talk, but that man is he looks like a tub of lard. And then you look at Chase and he's an athlete. I think Porter has a little bit of power in his hands. He's pretty strong. He's going to throw. They love putting these heavyweight fights that they think are going to end in a knockout closer to the top of these fight night cards. But ultimately, I think Chase Sherman is also way better technically than Piggy Porter. That's his new nickname. I just coined it.
I like it.
Yeah. So I'm going to roll with Chase Sherman here.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go with Chase Sherman. He lost to Augusto Sakai. He lost to Andrei Arlovsky. But either way, his depth of competition I like a lot. He went over to he bare knuckle boxed for a little while to kind of work on his boxing and work on his reaction time and things of that nature. I just think Parker Porter is at a depth. We talk, I think this is maybe the third time I brought it up this episode, but there's levels to this game, and this person can be good around a certain amount of competition, but when they take that step up, they realize, oh wow, I have a lot of work to do. What worked, with the more inexperienced or the lesser talented fighters doesn't work when the guys are faster than you, or they have a better strategy for you, or they have more experience than you, they have better footwork. 1, 2, or 3 of those things make fights very, very hard. If you may be a better fighter, but if that person is just quicker than you, there's not much you can do to land the target unless you can outsmart them. But if that person has more experience fighting, boxing, stand-up, what have you, it's going to be hard if you don't have the speed advantage and you don't have the footwork fight IQ advantage. And I think both of those two things lie with Chase Sherman in this fight. He's got experience in the UFC. He's got experience fighting. He's a little bit more athletic of a guy. He's got a 4-inch height advantage. He's got a 2 or 3-inch reach advantage in here. He's coming in a little bit lighter, which could be helpful, especially Parker Porter has a lot of mass on him. But I think I think Chase Sherman is just ultimately going to be the better guy. I think, Parker Porter is going to potentially try to take him down, but Chase Sherman, 77% takedown defense. I really like that a lot in the matchup. I'm going to go with Chase Sherman, and I'm going to make that a lock as well.
Yeah, I definitely like that as a lock, dude. I can kind of see this guy Parker Porter gassing out. And, Chase Sherman, he's been there. He's fought with some of the best in the division. So, definitely a good lock. So next up, we got Clay Guida versus Mark Madsen. Clay Guida, dude, what a guy. He's given us some of the best performances. Just like fun, entertaining fights to watch over the years, bloody, broken, still like sitting on the stool, getting up and going back out to fight. Fun guy to watch. This is a tough one for me to pick. Really, really tough, honestly, because it could, in my opinion, it could go either way. So I'm very curious to hear what you have to say on this one.
Yeah, I'm like all in on Mark Madsen. We just talked about people and their wins. Austin, he's got a win over Austin Hubbard. Much less time in the UFC, obviously. If you're going to try and compare fight time or experience in the UFC against Clay Guida, 9 times out of 10, that person's going to lose. However, Clay Guida, he's got a win over BJ Penn, but that was old BJ Penn at the end of his career who, the flexibility wasn't there. It wasn't the same BJ Penn, but he does have losses to Charles Oliveira, Mayhem Miller, I believe is Bobby Green. So he's got some losses on there. He's on a losing streak. When you're 39, 40 years old, those losing streaks get harder and harder to come back from. Now, granted, he definitely, it's not, I don't think it's going to be like a confidence thing, but, you turn 39, 40, and a lot of those things that, I had just talked about, your speed is not going to be there. Maybe getting hit and your IQ is, your brain doesn't function as well, especially talking about a guy who's been in multiple wars. So Mark Madsen is a guy who, when we're looking at the stats, the stand-up stats, very similar. Mark Madsen, 2.28 strikes landed per minute to Clay Guida's 2.44. Striking accuracy. Madsen has a 10% or an 8% striking advantage, 34-42 for Madsen. Strikes absorbed, Clay Guida. They're pretty much the same, but Clay Guida's just edges out, getting hit more per round. And the defense, a little bit better on Clay Guida's percent, but we're talking by about 15% here. But then when we go to grappling is when we really see the disparity. Takedowns per 15 minutes, 8 for Mark Madsen compared to Clay Guida's 3. 64% takedown accuracy for Madsen compared to Guida's 38. 0% takedown defense because nobody was going to shoot in on Mark Madsen. He's always going to do the shooting. Clay Guida, 68%, which is solid, but I think against a guy that's known as the Olympian, because he's been in the Olympics so often and has so many, none gold, but so many Olympic medals for wrestling, been to the Olympics so many times, I'm going to have to pick Mark Madsen in this one because of his ground game and their similarities on the feet. He's younger. He's going to have a better gas tank. Not many people have gas tanks like wrestlers. Now, here's the thing. He's 37 years old compared to Clay Guida, 39. So it's not like a crazy disparity in terms of age. But when your name's the Olympian, you're 10-0 and you're from Denmark, you're the bigger guy, you have a reach advantage, and your striking is fairly similar, I'm going to have to go with Mark Madsen.
Yeah, wow, call me casual. I didn't even know that Mark Madsen was like a multi-time Olympian. So I just thought he picked
the Olympian.
I just thought he picked it because it sounded cool.
I mean, it does sound cool, give him that.
Yeah,
but
yeah, it's definitely badass. So you're right, man. When you put it like that, Mark Madsen, that's a very easy call. The gas tank, everything in between. I have a feeling after the way that you put it that he's going to take Mr. Guida down to the ground and just smother him for 3 rounds.
He got a silver at the 2016 Olympics.
Wow, that's impressive, man. How about that? So
then he got so then in 2012 he lost the bronze medal match.
Wow. All right, hey, so it's impressive.
And in 2008 He was an Olympian in 2008, lost the bronze medal match in 2012, and then won the silver in 2016. So you're seeing incremental improvements as this guy gets older into his 30s. Wins the bronze at 32. Now he's 36 and going against a guy who's not going to be able to compete with him in terms of that power wrestling. And, Khabib, he's Sambo, but for all intents and purposes, if you're going to compare Sambo/wrestling to jiu-jitsu, Sambo and wrestling are going to be much more comparable and similar martial arts than jiu-jitsu. They're more about power, throw technique, or power and throws. And I just think Mark Madsen, he's going to be the stronger guy. He's going to be bigger. He's going to be more experienced. I think he's going to be able to jab to clinch to takedown. And I think he's going to beat up Clay Guida on the ground. And unfortunately, this may be the last we see of Mr. Guida.
Yeah. On Mark Madsen, I'm definitely taking that pick. Great pick there. So next up, we got Jared Cannonier versus Kelvin Gastellum, the headlining main event fight of the night. Pretty solid. This is, I don't want to say it's like who's going to be up next for a title shot against Izzy, because next up we got Robert Whittaker. I don't know, like who do you think is up after Robert Whittaker?
Well, give me a chance to pull this up, but I think, listen, if Cannonier can win this one in impressive fashion, I think he rockets himself up there. I believe he's already up there in terms of the ranking. Let me just pull up the middle.
He's like 2 or 3.
Yeah. Now, see, I just watched this morning. I rewatched his fight against Robert Whittaker, and I also watched Kelvin Gastelum's fight against, as they say, Robert Whittaker.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. Cannonier fought him in October of 2020. Gastellum fought him in March of 2021. Gastellum in 5 rounds, Cannonier in 3 rounds. Cannonier, technically, it was a unanimous decision loss, but there was points in that 3rd round where he is amazing that he didn't get finished. And I think if it went into the 4th or definitely a 5th, I think he would have had a Robert Whittaker finish. You got to give it props to Kelvin Gastelum. The dude gets hit and he just keeps moving forward. He's constantly at a height disadvantage, a reach disadvantage, moves forward. And here's the other interesting thing. Cannonier had a 4-inch reach advantage over Whittaker, but it didn't and he used leg kicks. And Whittaker was still able to get in there, outbox him, slip, parry, land the straight left, land the right. He just, it was a master class. Right, and then Whittaker goes on and has a masterclass against Gastellum, but Gastellum was never hurt in the way that Cannonier was. So because of that, I'm going to have to pick Kelvin Gastelum. I think he's had a lot of opportunities to win in these main event fights and drops them. I think he's a good enough fighter that he gets to. Also, you take into account, and I'm not even looking, this is all off the dome. I'm not even looking up any of these stats, but Jared Cannonier is, I believe, 36, 37 years old, maybe 38, approaching up there at the upper end of our age limit as far as UFC fighters' longevity goes. Kelvin Gastelum, still only 29, 30, so he's getting better and he's learning with each of these losses. These losses are to top-level competition. If I could pull up Kelvin Gastelum's most recent fights. Let's just go through the list here. He runs the gamut. So he loses the unanimous decision 5-rounder to Robert Whittaker, beats Ian Heinisch, who we just saw have a very good fight, loses to Jack Hermanson on heel hook. Good thing he doesn't have to worry about a heel hook from Jared Cannonier. Loses to Darren Till in a split decision, which, listen, Darren Till, no matter who you're going to talk about, he's one of the best kickboxers in the middleweight division. That was a 5-round fight, and it was a split decision. He loses to Israel Adesanya via unanimous decision. But if you watch that fight, it was a close fight, and it was probably Izzy's closest fight to date. Beats Jacare Souza, beats Michael Bisping back in 2017. This guy, when he loses, he either loses long decisions or he gets submitted. I don't see Jared Cannonier submitting him, and Jared Cannonier coming down from when he entered the UFC, he used to be a heavyweight. Then he was a light heavyweight, and then he had a couple losses there, notably to Jan Blachowicz. I believe he also had a loss to Dominic Reyes. He had to move down, and he's had some wins now at middleweight, but none of them have been 5-round fights. And as the fight goes on, you can see that he gets gassed. Kelvin Gastelum does not. Kelvin always up and down, jumping on his feet, light on his toes. I'm going to pick Kelvin Gastelum because of his tank. I think maybe Cannonier can win round 1, maybe 2, but since the 5-round event, I see Gastelum as the fight goes on being the better fighter, having that longevity, and I think he's ultimately going to win by decision.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Kelvin Gastelum, that's the way to go on this one. Cannonier, it's tough, dude. Moving almost 2 divisions down, 3 divisions down. It's crazy. You can't even imagine the amount of stress that puts on your body, just as a regular person trying to lose that much weight. But as a fighter then too. So yeah, you're right. For all those reasons, Kelvin Gastelum, he likes those long fights, and Cannonier doesn't really seem as well suited for him. So great pick all around. You provided some great arguments today. I did not come as prepared as Tom did. If you couldn't tell, I was kind of just off the cuff. But Tom, stone cold killer as always with the stats and the facts. So I appreciate you coming prepared today when I was not. But next time I'll come with my ship ready to go.
So let's run down the picks real quick. So the picks are, for me, William Knight over Fabio Cherant. So William Knight, Brian Kelleher, Luis Saldana, Brandon Royval, Vinc Pichel, Trevin Jones, Chase Sherman, Mark Madsen, and Kelvin Gastellum.
Yeah, all the same. I'm just sliding Bia Malecki in there as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Thanks, dude. Appreciate you, Tom.
No problem. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing for you specifically. And I think it's about time that we start putting up, now that we have a body of work, I think we might want to start putting our records in the comment section so people can follow along and see how we do. And, once we have, I guess we probably have 70-something picks under our belt. I think once we get to 100, we can, definitely start going off, and hopefully I take a big lead, but not going to take that big lead if you just tail me on all my picks, buddy.
Nah, don't worry. I mean, most episodes, people are watching, they see we are pretty divided on some stuff, but I think a lot of this card is pretty clear cut on who's going to win a lot of these fights. So, and like I said, I admit it.
Well, don't say that, because then if whenever we're wrong, we're going to look like major idiots. So
yeah, well, they were all your picks.
I will say this. I think anything can happen in the UFC. I think more so than really any other sport, because any other sport has multiple people involved and they can catch each other. If you make a mistake in the UFC, that could be the end of your night just like that. So I think anything can happen in the UFC. I think these fights are actually pretty close, but these are just the paths that I see them potentially having, and who knows? I'm not a professional, UFC picker. Maybe I am, but I'm not a professional fighter. I'm not a professional coach. And I'm sure if I can see these things, these people's coaches also see these things, and they're coaching and they're going back and forth. But at the end of the day, you can only go based on what you have. And I think these are going to be the winners. I think I'm definitely going to be at least, I don't know how many picks there was, probably 5, 6, 7, 8 picks. I feel like I could go 5 for 8. So we'll see. Yeah. But I think if last week was, or 2 weeks ago was any indicator, I'm hot. So, and hopefully I stay hot.
Yes, I think we will. And if these picks do suck, I'm just going to curtail and say they were all yours and I just tailed you on them. And then they won't count to my record. But if they win, I'll take them. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Tom, thank you for being prepared. Next week, we'll probably be divisive again. All right. Take it easy, guys.